Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fruitful Three Show. Today we're honoring our veterans with a deep dive into what makes their service so unique. We'll talk about the different military branches, break down those sometimes confusing military holidays, and spotlight some of the amazing benefits veterans can access. Plus, we want to hear from you.
That's right. Throughout the show, we'll ask a few questions and would love if you drop your thoughts in the comments or join our poll on social media, if I am ambitious or not. This episode is all about community and honoring those who serve, so let's jump right in. But before we kick this off, I see you're wearing some merch, bro. That's right.
Bring the swag out, man.
You got the new drip. So get cozy and spread the cheer this winter with our latest collection, bro. I mean, that's old. That's been out since we started this. But wrap yourself in comfort and warmth with styles designed to lift your spirits and keep you snug all season long. How snug is it on you, buddy?
Pretty snug. It's pretty nice and warm.
Good freaking deal. Perfect for those chilly days and festive nights. Grab yours today and bring a little more joy to your winter wardrobe. Yeah, you like that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, we're not at least free spitting merch anymore.
I actually had some ambition and I wrote some thoughts down.
So, before we get into this, happy Veterans Day, because it was Monday. And then
Belated
Veterans Day. But if we do have any vets out there that's listening, thank you for your service. Moving on, here's a question for everyone listening. How much do you actually know about the different branches of the military? If you think about the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and now, Space Force.
Sounds like a Power Rangers movie.
To infinity and beyond. Oh, wait, that's Buzz Lightyear. Sorry.
What comes to mind?
Yeah, what comes to mind? Tell us in your comments below.
And while you're typing that out, here's a fun fact. Each branch has its own specific mission and culture. For example, the Army is primarily focused on ground combat, while the Navy rules the seas. And the Marine Corps, they're known as a rapid response force, kind of like the first ones in during combat.
Let's keep it going with the Air Force. They're in charge of the air, obviously, and space operations. And then there's the Coast Guard, which handles law enforcement on the water and is actually part of Homeland Security during peacetime. So, Coast Guard, a lot of people don't know this about the Coast Guard, but those dudes are some really badass motherfuckers. Like, because they do a lot of different things, and
Aren't they also like the ones that get to fire missiles at if nukes are coming our way? Yeah.
Like, they're the ones who do all the drug busts, like people trying to like bring stuff from Cuba. Cuban
coke.
They get a deal with all that. They also, there's a really good movie out there by Ashton Kutcher. He played in it, but I can't remember the movie now. But that's kind of what it is like that. Those dive into a lot of what the Coast Guard does. That movie does. But yeah, those guys like go out in the middle of like hurricane season to like rescue people in the seas and all this other stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be flying choppers out during storms, but they deserve their credit. They get kind of like, well, they're kind of like the laughing stock because a lot of people don't think they're like big into, they don't think their job is very important, let's put it that way. But they really,
I mean, you literally get to send missiles if nukes are coming our way, you know? You get to hit the button like
not today, Junior.
If I would have went in the military, it would have been Coast Guard. That's what I would have gone into.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had different plans. and different dreams and different ambitions.
Oh, it's called The Guardian.
The Guardian.
Yeah.
What year?
So it was made in 2006. Yeah, so if you watch The Guardian, that movie dives into a lot of what the Coast Guard does and what their mission objective is. And it's really intense training that a lot of people don't think about.
Finally, the Space Force. It's the newest branch. It's about Power Rangers. I mean, no, I'm kidding.
No,
Focusing.
it's Buzz Lightyear, dummy.
My goodness. It's about the Jedi. Focusing on protecting U.S. interests in space. We'd love to know, do you think space defense will become a big part in the future? Vote on our social media poll. Again, if I am ambitious or not.
And hey, if you are a loved one who served in one of these branches, shout them out in the comments below. It's a little way we can all honor their service today and always. Because once a vet, always a vet.
Next up, let's clarify those different military holidays. I feel like Veterans Day and Memorial Day sometimes get mixed up, right?
Sometimes Armed Forces Day gets mixed up there too. But yeah, those are about the three that really get mixed up. Totally. So there's the rundown. Armed Forces Day is on the third Saturday in May, and it honors everyone who is currently serving.
That is overseas right now.
Actually,
or like just like
anyone who is still like under who is under contract at this very current moment. If you are under contract, that's your holiday.
So that's your holiday?
Pretty much.
Cool. Now I gotta remember like the third Saturday in May, bro.
Yeah.
And celebrate it like it's your birthday.
Sure.
Okay.
Strippers and cocaine?
Yeah. I know you graduated with a degree of women and beer, but we're gonna try something new with strippers and cocaine.
Yeah. And I have a secondary degree.
Oh yeah?
In automotive tech.
I thought your secondary degree was bullshit.
Yeah, it might have been.
And then there's Memorial Day, also in May, is specifically to remember those who have died in service. This day is a little more somber. It's about honoring those who gave everything.
Then there's Veterans Day, which we celebrated on Monday, or right now if you are still doing it, and it's celebrated on November 11th. It's about recognizing and thanking everyone who's served, past or present. So it's more about this one's a little tricky because yes, it deals with like past and present, but it deals with more of those who have served, who are currently like out in the like they did their time, they're now a civilian. It's one of those days that's more, but a lot of times that like I said, that's the problem with a lot of these holidays is they kind of all get blended into one. But I mean, as long as you're honoring our military men and women out there, because they do sacrifice a lot to protect our freedoms or what freedoms we have left.
Now, here's a question, not the question for the audience. Do you have a family tradition for any of these holidays? Maybe you visit a memorial on Memorial Day, or you have a Veterans Day brunch. Share it with us. We'd love to hear how you and your family honor these days.
Exactly. These days are a big part of our national history, and hearing how people mark them makes it more meaningful. All right. With that being said, I'm going to say one thing I find, so being in the military, being in the Guard myself, one thing I find very disrespectful is like we only get like, what is that, 3 days technically?
Yeah, Memorial, Armed Forces, and Veterans Day.
Yeah. So veterans basically only get 3 days out of a whole entire year. And there are other things out there. I'm not going to say it because it's going to start a whole political war. But there are other things out there that get entire months worth of celebrating. Honestly, I think we should be celebrating our veterans every single day because they take risks, they take chances, and they sacrifice a lot with being away from friends and family and doing what they believe is right to protect this country. Now, anything else?
No, okay. I'm just sitting here thinking maybe I should have put in how they started, that's the only thing that's going through my mind right now.
Okay. Now let's talk about some benefits. There are so many out there, but how many do we actually know? For one, there's the GI Bill, VA healthcare. They're all huge, but let's get specific.
Absolutely. The GI Bill is one of the best known benefits. It helps cover college costs for veterans, including tuition, books, and housing.
And then we've got VA healthcare, which offers access to medical care through VA hospitals and clinics. There's also mental health support, which is crucial, but doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
Let's ask our listeners, if you're a veteran or know one, what's a benefit that's made a difference in your life? Or is there a benefit you think needs more attention?
I don't know if there's actually one that needs more attention. With that being said, I think a lot of these kind of deserve a little bit more attention because, and I actually have notes here on this. The GI Bill is really, really helpful because what the GI Bill does is it will pay up to the highest, it'll pay up to 4 years of the highest college in your state. So like for ours, it's the University of Nebraska. So whatever UNL's tuition fee for 4 years is, that's what they pay out. So with that being said, the other thing is like VA clinics. So like you can get like VA house loans and stuff, which I did. You gotta be very, very careful with those because some of those, like mine, for example, was it like 3% interest or something? But like apparently after like so many years, it went bye-bye.
And then you gotta pay 9% interest.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's a lot of, so when you read about these benefits, there's a lot of gray areas in here because like you got to read a lot of the fine print, and unfortunately I didn't with some of these benefits. So be very, very careful with them. And with that being said, is a lot of these fine prints leads to the negative points. And the negative points are the fact that there are 22 veterans that cause suicide a day. The number one reason for suicides are PTSD, and the other one is like PTSD is a big one. Homelessness is another one. There are so this was taken in 2023. So this is
a year old.
Yeah, about a year old. But as of May of 2023, there was 19,031 veterans that were homeless. Those were sheltered. So those were ones that reported into homeless shelters. They predict that there is 13,851 veterans still homeless on the streets. We are actually doing better because this is a 55% decrease since 2010. So that's at least a good thing. But like I said, there's an estimated 1.5 million veterans are at risk of homelessness. 87% of homeless veterans are men. 11% are women. Veterans ages from 18 to 30. Veterans aged 18 through 34 and 45 through 54 most frequently reported homelessness. Veterans and addictions. Homeless veterans are more likely to have opioid addictions. The VA, as of right now, they have a goal to try to build housing and tried to get 41,000 try to rescue 41,000 veterans that are currently, so they want to make like 41,000 rooms across the state, like housing facilities to
complexes
throughout all of those complexes across the board. They want 41,000 veterans roomed and boarded. But yeah, the biggest problem to this homelessness is, unfortunately, the military has a low income base pay. And so and also with PTSD, with like seeing stuff that goes on overseas, some people don't know how to react to that. So they come back, they get hooked on drugs, they get addicted, and then the addiction takes over and they lose everything. So yes, there are a lot of benefits out there, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people are trying, but until we actually solve these problems, until we actually like solve these problems, like figure out like, hey, how can we, these guys that are coming out of the military, how can we like transition them into civilian life? These guys that are coming back from overseas, how can we transition them back into American life? How can we debrief them from what they just saw? How can we provide them services to whatever they just may have experienced? How do I word this? There's a lot of improvement. Like, we have a lot of benefits and they're really, really good, but there's a lot of room for improvement. So that's why I say is a lot of these benefits need more attention because of the numbers I just showed you. Now, speaking of benefits that deserve the spotlight, there's also the VA home loan. Oh, I did talk about that, which helps veterans buy homes with no down payments. Plus, many companies offer veterans hiring preferences and other perks. It's a way of saying thank you, and we'd love to hear if you know of any local businesses that support veterans. I don't want to shine a negative light on this, but I do know a few veterans who have spent their entire military career being in a specific field, and one was an electrician in the Navy, and he spent like 20 plus years as an electrician in the Navy, had all of his documents and everything he needed, and was certified in every area. And when he got out, nobody would hire him because he didn't have civilian experience. So, like I said, I'm not trying to shine a negative light on this, but I know a few people who have the same exact story as that, and they would rather hire the 19, 20-year-old kid out of college because he has more civilian knowledge than a guy who's experienced and been doing this in the military for 20 plus years. To me, that's not right. And maybe there's a way to fix it. Like we were talking earlier about benefits and stuff like that. Maybe there is a way to
get them a government electrician job.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be several things out there that are, I mean, you could work at the White House as an electrician or the Pentagon. I mean, there's got to be some sort of job out there that allows you to do things like that. It's the government, man. They got jobs everywhere.
Exactly. And then you get all the holidays off.
Okay, so I'm going to take you down a little rabbit hole here.
Uh-oh.
So you spoke of all the holidays off, right? So this is something I'm going to teach you guys something, because if you are listening to this, and let's just say you're considering joining the military, or let's say you know someone that is considering joining the military. So with that being said, is one, do your history, figure out the best branch for you, or figure out the best job for you. Now, if you want to, you can switch jobs anytime you got to at least have a year under your belt of that job before you can switch. But coming from a guard standpoint, and coming from what I know, is I wish I would have known this when I joined the guard instead of almost 8 years of being in. So the Guard has what they call tech jobs, right? So tech jobs are basically government jobs. Right here, right now, they're offering, I think, right around $25 an hour to start off. That's based on, like, that's minimum, but it's all based off of experience too. So you can get more if you, depending on depending on where you're at in your career. But one thing is they get all your paid holidays off, right? That even includes, like, I don't really want to call them dumb ones, but the ones you wouldn't really consider a holiday. I can't even, like Columbus Day or something. So, like, they get like that day off. You also get so many days for military leave. So, like, let's say you want to go to school, or let's say you're going to AT, which is annual training. Let's say you do that. They have, so those military paid days off are for, like, military duty. So, like, if you want to double dip for 2 weeks while you're on annual training orders and still get paid through your job, you can definitely do that, and you're double dipping. The other thing too is you actually get actual paid time off, which is, like, if you want to go on vacation or something like that, then you can say, hey, I got these many days to go on vacation. I'm taking, let's just say, a 2-week vacation. And then they're pretty flexible. Most of them are 4 10-hour days. So you basically get a 3-day weekend at the end of it. And then the other cool thing is they actually pay to send you to school. Let's say someone like me who has a mechanical background, right? So someone like me who has a mechanical background, they'll send me to, like, transmission school, and I'll spend, like, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks. I don't know how long their course is, so I'm just throwing numbers out there. But let's say I spend 2 weeks at this transmission school, and most of it's down, like, so they'll send me to this transmission school, and I'll learn how to rebuild transmissions at this transmission school. If I want to dive deeper into, like, wiring and all this other stuff, they'll send me and pay me to go to this school, and so then I can go walk out of the military with all my certificates and get paid to do it. So that is one benefit of being in the Guard, compared to, like, active duty, is you get that opportunity. So just think about that when if you are applying, or if you know someone who is applying to the Guard. So, or not to the Guard, but to any branch. Like I said, do your research, figure out your pros and cons, and figure out what is your best fit.
Hey, let's go through the benefits of the GI deal.
So,
Pros and cons, here we go.
Yeah, pretty much. So the GI Bill provides a variety of benefits to help veterans and their families pay for education and training. Obviously, we've already mentioned that. Tuition fees. The post 9/11 GI Bill can cover the full cost of public in-state tuition and fees for those who qualify for the maximum benefit. Housing, which, as I said, the maximum benefit is whatever the highest paid college or university in your state is. If you're enrolled in school more than half time, you may be eligible for money to help with housing. Books and supplies. You may be eligible for money to help with the cost of books and supplies. Relocation. You may be eligible for money to help you move from a rural area to attend school. Licensing and certification. You may be eligible for reimbursement for the cost of licensing and certification tests and prep courses, up to $2,000 per test. So, what that saying is, like, and don't quote me on this, but I'm going to use it for an example. Nursing school. I know for a fact, like, nurses and doctors have a bunch of, like, special criteria courses they have to go through, and sometimes they have to go through and get certified before they can graduate. So with that being said, this is something that you could totally look into and get $2,000 per kid.
I'd be passing like flying colors, bro. You know, I'm sorry. Has nothing to do with the military. It's just really cool today. I was coming home and there was a cloud that was red, yellow, and green, bro. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, and no, I was not doing drugs, but it was just the base how the sun was casting its reflection on the cloud and the sky. It was creating a blue and yellow, which made it green, but you could see the yellow. Now the red, that I don't know where red comes from in the spectrum, but it was all colors of the rainbow, and it was kind of cool. That was completely random.
So yeah, there's Isaiah's little LSD rabbit hole.
I'm not doing drugs, I swear.
So training, you may be eligible for money to help pay for training for a specific career, trade, or industry. This includes flight training, on-the-job training, and/or apprenticeships. Entrepreneurship. You may be eligible for access to training to help you start your own business. Work while you study. You may be eligible for work while you study or co-op training. The GI Bill is administered by the Department of Veteran Affairs. There are several GI programs, including the post-9/11 GI Bill, which is the most commonly used one, the Montgomery GI Bill Active Duty, and the Montgomery GI Bill Selective Reserve.
You're doing a great job. And I just want to let you know that.
So
I wish I could be more helpful. I don't know nothing about the military.
Now, to kill time, we're going to the history of the Army.
Okay, that's fair enough. You know,
the history of the United States Army is rooted in the Continental Army, which was formed in 1775 to fight the American Revolutionary War.
With the 13 colonies behind their backs, led by George freaking Washington.
Yeah.
And a lot of drunks and a lot of things happened. And even some women dressed up as men to fight for this country because, you know, equality.
Yeah. Oh, so going down another rabbit hole before we get on this. So you're talking about like women, right?
Yeah.
So do you know we have one of our very own make the Lincoln Journal Star?
Well, you
the
told me.
The front page of the Lincoln Journal Star.
You told me last night, but continue.
So Angie Nyman, for those of you who don't know who Angie Nyman is, Angie Nyman grew up on a farm outside of Gilead, Nebraska, and she ended up going to the Vietnam War and was a nurse in the Vietnam War. During that time, she experienced some things that wasn't very pleasant that she still haunts her to this day. But the Lincoln Journal Star decided that they were going to write an article on the nurses of the Vietnam War because apparently, well, I wouldn't say apparently, as we all know, the Vietnam War people or veterans don't get a lot of credit. They're a lot of hated. They believe that we didn't need to be in the war. So with that being said, there's a lot of hate to it, and especially nurses around that time because a lot of people believe that women shouldn't be over there. So a lot of nurses didn't get the respect that they deserved when they came back home. They reached out to her and wrote an article on her. They also wrote on another article on like an Omaha native, and they were kind of mashed together in the same article. I don't remember who the other one was. Her last name was Scholes, like Scholz, I think is how you spelled it. But yeah, I thought it was cool how they decided to do that.
And for all who needs context, her sister Eva used to babysit us, so
yeah,
that's how familiar.
And John, her brother John, used to be the local drunk in the bar, and he always claimed that he was going to be president. And if he was declared president, there was going to be a strip club in every town across the United States.
And weed was going to be legal.
Yep.
Good old Johnny boy.
Yup. By the way, you know how fine I am? I'm fine. I'm in frog hair. Have you ever seen hair on a frog?
Yeah.
Didn't think so. That's how fine I am. That was Johnny's like famous saying all the time. Every time you ask Johnny how he is doing, he always told you it's finer than frog hair. And then he'd ask you, have you ever seen hair on a frog? I didn't think so. That's how fine I am. History of the Army. The Continental Army. Hold on, pause that real quick. Yeah. So let's go.
Are you sure you're ready to come back?
Yep. So the Continental Army was the first regular fighting force of the U.S. and was formed on June 14th, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress. It was made up of 22,000 militia troops from Boston, and 5,000 from New York. George Washington took command of the Continental Army on July 3rd, 1775. The United States Army was established on June 3rd, 1784 by the Congress of the Confederation to replace the Continental Army. The USA considers itself a continuation of the Continental Army and considers 1775 to be the origin of the armed forces. The U.S. Army Center of Military History is responsible for writing about the history of the United States Army. The CMH staff is involved in many writing projects, including research on operational history, peacekeeping, procurement, and the global war on terror. National Museum of the United States Army is located just outside the nation's capital and offers free admission. We are going to do the Air Force history, which we should have done this all in segment 1. The history of the United States Air Force includes the development of the first aircraft, the creation of the Army Air Service, and the establishment of the Department of the Air Force. Early aviation. In 1903, the first heavier than air flight took place. The U.S. Army Signal Corps purchased the Wright brothers' first heavier than air flying machine in 1909. Long story short, hot air balloon. Army Air Services. In 1918, President Woodrow Wilson created the Army Air Service in response to the superior aircraft industries of the European countries during World War I. The Department of the Air Force. In 1947, the National Security Act established the Department of the Air Force and the USAF, aka United States Air Force, if you did not know that. No way.
I thought it meant as
a separate branch of the United States Armed Forces. The USAF's core missions include air supremacy, global intelligence, and rapid global mobility. Air Force Academy. The Air Force Academy, not the Police Force Academy, or not the Police Academy, but the Air Force Academy, provides the USAF with officers and trains future leaders. In 2014, the Academy celebrated its 60th anniversary.
They had to have a lot of fun because they actually got airplanes to drive around.
Here are some other notable events in the history of the United States Air Force. The first fatality in a powered aircraft occurred in 1908. The first air armed flying school opened in 1909. The beginnings of in-flight refueling occurred in 1923. The USAF broke the sound barrier in 1947.
Tragic. Just absolutely tragic.
Moving on. The Marines.
Good deal.
Good old jarheads. The United States Marine Corps has a rich history, including its origins in the Revolutionary War, its role in World War I, and its involvement in the Persian Gulf War. The origins. The USMC was established on November 10th, 1775, when the Continental Congress ordered the creation of 2 battalions of Marines to serve as landing forces with the Continental Navy. The Corps was originally called the Continental Marines and was disbanded after the Revolutionary War in 1783. It was reformed in 1798 and renamed the United States Marine Corps. Moving on to World War I. The 4th Marine Brigade earned the nickname Devil Dogs for their heroic actions in 1918 at Belleau Wood.
Baloo?
That's what I thought. Wood and other battlefields in France. Amphibious warfare. The USMC developed its doctrine, equipment, and organization for amphibious warfare in the decades leading up to World War II. The Korean War. In 1950, the Marines landed Incheon, Korea, demonstrating the effectiveness of amphibious assaults. The Persian Gulf War. After the war, the 1st Marine Division provided disaster relief in Bangladesh and the Philippines. Operation Restore Hope. In 1992, man, that was a good year.
That was when you were born.
The 2nd Battalion, 9th Marine Regiment, and the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit provided humanitarian relief in Somalia. The USMC has participated in every major U.S. naval action since 1775 and has executed more than 300 landings on foreign shores. What'd I do? Navy next, right?
Navy. You need me to read something for you?
Go ahead.
Since I'm just sitting here looking pretty, you know.
Got that pretty boy swag going on, don't you?
Yeah, I got the Lakers on, you know. I got the oh pretty boy look.
Oh no, pretty boy Brawny ended up going to the minor leagues.
All right, the history of the United States Navy is marked by 2 major periods: the Old Navy, which is a store, and the New Navy.
I think that might be the wrong Navy there, buddy. But we'll go that route.
The Navy's history includes the Continental Navy. The Continental Congress established the Continental Navy on October 13th, 1775 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Navy was formed by converting 6 merchant ships and building 13 new frigates. The USS, did I say that right? You looked at me.
I don't know what you tried to say, so.
It's Frigates.
Brigades?
Oh,
I don't know.
It could be frigates. I want to say frigates, because that sounds better.
Faggots? Wait, what?
Hold on. I ain't trying to get canceled now.
Hey, if we would have been canceled, it would have been like 3-4 weeks ago when we did our politic one.
Yeah, probably, you know. The USS Alfred was the Navy's first flagship and the first ship to fly the flag of freedom. The flag of freedom. My bad. The Old Navy. This period was marked by the use of ironclads during the American Civil War. The New Navy. This period began in the 1880s with the modernization effort that resulted in the U.S. Navy becoming the world's largest by 1943. The Cold War. After World War II, the U.S. Navy participated in the Korean and Vietnam proxy wars. The U.S. Navy is the world's primary forward deployed force. The Navy's history can be further explored through the Dictionary of American Naval Fighting Ships, or DANFS, which is available in many libraries. I don't need to be reading this, but I'm going to. So we did the Marines, we did the...
It's Coast Guard next.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You already there? You want me to?
I can read it, bro. I can go all
Dude,
night.
you got a bunch of dates on this thing, bad boy. It's a timeline, bro.
Oh, that's fine by me, bro. The United States Coastal Guard, or USCG, is the oldest military branch in the country. With the history that began in 1790, President George Washington signed the Tariff Act when authorized the construction of 10 vessels to enforce trade and tariff laws and prevent smuggling. This marked the beginning of the Coast Guard's history. They were really sending some Colombian cocaine, real good stuff, you know, back in the day.
I think a lot of that was probably dealing with like
Tea! Oh.
Well, that could have been it too, but I was gonna say like pirate ships and slave ships and
Oh. Yeah, those could be it.
The import ships from overseas.
1915, the Rescue Cutter Service and the U.S. Life-Saving Service merged, and the Coast Guard was officially established. The Life-Saving Service was made up of stations along the coast that saved people in danger. 1939, the Lighthouse Service joined the Coast Guard. 1946, the Bureau of Navigation and Steamboat Inspection joined the Coast Guard. 1967, the Coast Guard was transferred to the Treasury Department to the Department of Transportation. 2003, the Coast Guard was transferred to the Department of Homeland Security. The Coast Guard has served in every conflict in the country's history. In times of war, the Coast Guard can operate as part of the Department of Navy. The Coast Guard has a number of advanced ships, including the Legend-class national security cutters, which are capable of operating in the ocean.
Now, the last but not least, to infinity and beyond.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Space Force. Still think that should have been a Power Rangers. Like, what are we even gonna, what are we even gonna do in space? Like, we're gonna have, battles up there? Like, is it gonna become Star Wars?
So you were asking that question, right?
Yeah,
So the history of the United States Space Force. Sorry, I gotta slow that one down.
United States Space Force.
There's a lot of S's in that.
Space Force.
Can be traced back to the beginning of the military space program after World War II.
Which is the one sending them to the moon.
Yep. The USSF was established on December 20th, 2019 as the 6th branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. Early military space development. General H. Arnold of the United States Army Air Forces began early military space development, identifying space as a critical military area decades before the first spaceflight. Strategic Defense Initiative. The Reagan administration seriously considered proposals for a U.S. Space Force as part of the Strategic Defense Initiative. Space Corps or Space Force. Congress began exploring the idea of establishing a Space Corps or Space Force in the late 1990s and early 2000s. USSF established the USSF was established in 2019 in response to Russia and Chinese military space developments. The USSF was the first new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces since 1947. The USSF's mission is to protect the United States' interests in space, deter aggression in space, and conduct space operations. The USSF is organized as part of the Department of the Air Force, with the Secretary of the Air Force having overall responsibility. The USSF is led by the Chief of Space Operations. So let me backtrack here. Wasn't NASA... Okay, so a lot of those dates are a lot of times that I know in early 2000s, NASA was going through a funding issue.
They're still going through a funding issue.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that's kind of when it all, I remember the early 2000s, they were going through funding issues, and I know they still are. Is the Space Force eventually going to take over the NASA program? Is that kind of what they're...
I think so.
Is that kind of the way that it's going to transition?
I think so.
I think that's
a very good,
observation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More control for the government.
Yeah.
To have all of NASA's.
So we can have more moon landings made in basements.
You're absolutely right.
And Area 51 can only get bigger with aliens.
You're absolutely right. And Project Bluebeam.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one. That's why you're what?
A plot to facilitate a totalitarian world government or one government by destroying
Abrahamic.
Yeah, there we go. Abrahamic religions and replacing them with a new age belief system using futuristic NASA technology and involving a faked alien invasion or faked extraterrestrial encounter meant to deceive nations into uniting under a world government.
That's why Trump hired Elon Musk to his cabinet. He's gonna use his not drones, but
SpaceX.
that, and he's gonna use his droids for his AI people to be our aliens that invade this earth.
I guess so.
iRobot, here we come. Yeah. Will Smith, save us all. Yeah. We probably should have done the history. I thought you had history in here.
I thought I did too, but I guess
or at least
that might have been the first script. And then I just didn't realize that I screwed up. Because I wrote 3 scripts, okay? So, that's you.
Well, there you go. That's a wrap. The last half hour was just us BSing. But
just
hopefully...
like the old podcast.
Yeah, but hopefully you learned something today. And for us, we learned so much, from the unique missions of each branch to the importance of Veterans Day. And the history, obviously, if you listen to the last half hour, the history of every single branch. And hearing from all of you really made it feel like a community celebration.
Exactly. Thank you to our veterans. And thank you to everyone who shared stories and memories. Let's keep the conversation going, not just today, but all year round.
All right, everyone. Don't forget to follow us. Keep sharing your thoughts and tune in next time for more insightful conversations on the Fruitful Three Show. Happy Veterans Day, everyone. To infinity and beyond.
Peace, love, happiness, and unity.